Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I could never do it without the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, my friend, the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase, fresh back from Ireland. Welcome back, Ted.
Oh, man. Marcus, I tell you what, it's good to be back. I mean, there's no place like home. But Melanie and I had an absolutely wonderful time in Ireland. The guy who invited me over there, it's just a funny story. It's like years ago when I was actively wrestling and I was in Ireland, he had approached me and he wanted some help. He wanted somebody to help him get phone contacts and things like that. So he wanted to start his own thing. He said he couldn't get anybody to help him. He says, but Ted, you took the time to help me. And he says, for that's why he invited Melanie and I over to Ireland on his dime for a whole week. I mean, round trip airfare, all the hotels and all that stuff is on him.
What a guy.
So he's doing pretty good now.
Man, fantastic. And it goes to show that you do something nice for people, you help people out, and it can come back to you.
Yeah, you sure can.
So Ted, you
give me leprechauns though, dang it.
No leprechauns over there. Well, you know what? You may have gotten something even better. You got to go right to where the source of Guinness beer. Oh, yeah. I definitely got to the source. Yeah. Yeah. I had me a couple, 2 or 3 or 5. 2, 3, 5. It's probably hard to keep count.
No. But touring that plant was it was pretty cool. And then there was a castle, and I don't know whose castle it was or where exactly that it was, but the mayor of this town took us on this tour of this castle, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's like there's nothing in the United States of America that's over 200 years old or whatever, 200 and what is it now, whatever. But it's maybe I don't even think we're 250 yet. But, I was walking around a building that had been there for 1,000 years.
Unbelievable.
It's incredible. It's just incredible. And it almost, it's like, how did these people do this? How did they build a castle with it's just, with modern technology, makes it a lot easier. But,
yeah.
There weren't any great big cement trunks, going to drive up and pour the cement for that sucker. They haul it in by hand.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had a marvelous time, and the guy that had us over was just a really, really good guy, and he had just been a super fan and wanted to try to do his own thing. And they said nobody would help him, but Ted, you took the time to help me. So he said, I just wanted to pay you back with a little tour of Ireland. And so we had a grand old time, if you know.
Man, how cool that you got to go back there.
I must say I did have me a pint or two.
Well, you've got to while you're in Ireland. And it reminded me of those great pictures from WWE Magazine. They're floating around out there on them internets of you and Sherry Martel over there in Ireland walking around. So it's so cool that you're back there all these years later.
Well, we had a good time.
Ted, I'm so thrilled to have you back here. And I know that our listeners are going to be thrilled because we are doing our 18th edition of Ask Ted Anything. I've had the questions building up, and boy, I can't wait to get through them here today. Before we get into the questions, I do want to remind people that Ted puts out a prompt on his social media. So if you want to ask Ted a question, look for the prompt and reply in the comments, or the other way to do it, something a lot more people have been doing, reach out to me in my DMs at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X, and you can drop your question there. If we haven't asked it yet, I will put it on the show. I also want to mention that you guys have got to go over to the YouTube channel and get subscribed. Ted DiBiase, of course, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan share the channel. It's 2 podcasts, tons of clips, videos by Jim about his day-to-day activities, and it's the only place where Jim Duggan podcast, the Hacksaw Hour, exists. So if you want to listen to Jim Duggan's podcast, which you definitely do, it's at Golden Era Network. So it's youtube.com/@Golden Era Network. Go check it out and go get subscribed, for crying out loud.
And always remember this: tough guy.
Oh, the anniversary of you and Jim Duggan in your tuxedo match has got to be coming up here soon, and I'm gonna get the 2 of you together to do a recording for that for the 40th anniversary.
I can't imagine anybody talking me into doing that, but they did.
That Bill Watts.
Of course, everybody's got a price.
That is very true. And boy, let me tell you, it was like a cage match, a coal miner's glove match, a tuxedo match.
It was every conceivable match in one.
And loser leaves town.
Inside a steel cage, coal miner's glove on a 12-foot pole, loser leave town. I can't, there's nothing else. Even though it's in a cage, I think there were even wrestlers stationed all the way around the ring, like a lumberjack match. So,
I think you're right.
Yeah. So it was everything in one.
I'm just picturing Bill Watts in the booking being like, I don't know what gimmick to go with. Hell with it. Let's just do all of them. Yep. I think I'm going to get the 2 of you together.
A lot of guys don't like Bill. And, I would even say that, I think, and I tease him because I am a friend with him now. And, back in the day, he was a promoter, but he wasn't any different than any other promoter. The thing that I would say was different is that his territory drew better than most all territories at the time. And of course, could he have paid us better? Probably. But, it's like, hey, it's where else you going to go? It's kind of like, and especially once Vince started going and, all the territory started disappearing. He said that, there was only, it's kind of like if Vince had told me I want to dress you up in a dress like a girl and, it's kind of like, okay, just can I have a job? No, I don't even think I do the girl thing.
It's funny. Arn Anderson once was asked on his podcast, and I don't know if I've talked about it here or not before, but let's hit it again if I have. Arn Anderson was once asked on his podcast about the Gold Dust character, and somebody asked him, Arn, if push came to shove and you came to the WWF and Vince McMahon said, hey, I've got this character, it's Gold Dust, you're going to be androgynous. You remember the Gold Dust character, of course, Ted.
Yeah.
And Arn's answer was, how much are you paying me?
Yeah,
which is the right answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a business. All right. Well, look, before we do get into these fan questions, I wanted to ask you a question that I've been meaning to ask. We were just talking about the Hacksaw with Jim, and on that podcast, Jim told me that Manny Fernandez once took liberties with him in the ring when he was still green. I know that Manny was a West Texas State guy, so I'm sure you were around him quite a bit. What do you think of Manny Fernandez overall? And does that sound like something that he would do to a green guy?
Well, that I don't know. Manny was okay. He did go to West Texas State. He was a West Texas State guy, but, I was never close friends with him. I was very close friends with Jim. And, the only one that I think I saw, Jim almost went Fist City in the dressing room with
Matt Bourne.
Yeah. And you know what? Matt Bourne deserved it.
Yeah, I have not heard good things about Matt at all over the years.
Just another guy who was just out for himself.
Now, when it comes to Manny, I have heard positive things about Manny, negative things about Manny. And the thing, with Jim, whenever he's in that position, he's a young guy. So it's like sometimes a guy might be coming at you rough and you're like, okay, is this guy shooting on me? Or like, what are we doing? And when you're young, you're just like, well, whatever. You just go with the punches. As Jim got older, and I'm sure that, same thing for you. It's like as guys are taking liberties, you're like, okay, this guy's trying to push me. So now it's time for me to push back.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever take any liberties with you when you were young, Ted?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, if there were, well, there weren't, because nobody ever did. And one of the reasons is because I'm a guy who grew up in the business, and everybody knew that. Everybody knew that pro wrestling wasn't brand new to me. That I had been watching it since I was 6 years old, and that my dad was a wrestler. And if there was anybody that they should take liberties with, it would be me, because I had more experience than anybody in the ring.
So you were coming in there with respect, and nobody was gonna. And I mean, you had the respect of Terry Funk right out of the gate. All these guys that you're surrounded by.
I was, that's just it. It's like a fraternity. It's like you can come in, but mind your P's and Q's, and do whatever you're told to do. And it's just, that's just it. It's like a private club, and you have to earn it.
It's funny. I hear all these nightmare stories from guys like Jake and Jim and other wrestlers I've been around, where it's like they talk about what it was like coming up in the business and having to kind of deal with. It's almost like being hazed in many ways, or at least treated like an outcast whenever you first come into the business, where essentially you've got to prove yourself. How bad do you want this?
Yeah.
So it's kind of refreshing to hear that, like, nope, didn't happen for you, which is great.
Well, and some of the times, the other thing, especially where Jake and I are concerned, is these older guys that watch guys like Jake and I come in, and again, Jake and I have so much in common. Both of our dads were wrestlers. We grew up in it. We've seen it and did it, practically all our lives. And so the other way you can look at somebody trying to take advantage of you in the ring is they're just trying to take care of themselves. What I'm saying? And that's easy to figure out, especially for Jake and I. And so that's why it never happened much. I can't remember any time that anybody really tried to just bury me in a match.
That's great. So even, the other thing that happens to young guys in wrestling that I've heard about is, okay, maybe you've got the respect of the boys. Like, let's say you've been wrestling for a year, 2 years, and they're like, okay, this kid, he's good. Even then, some veteran wrestlers will try to gobble you up in the ring, meaning just get themselves over in the match, not really give you anything. Nobody ever did anything like that to you?
Well, no. And again, because I was ring savvy.
Mm.
And there's ways to protect yourself from that happening too. So, but no, nobody ever guzzled me.
So
and I can't name any names because I can't really think of anybody off the top of my head. But anybody that did do it, they found out right away that you don't do that.
So obviously, I'm a young wrestler, and there's other people who are listening to this who I'm sure are young wrestlers. Ted, what advice would you give to a young wrestler about how to avoid getting guzzled by their opponent in the ring?
Well, again, it just depends on who that person is, because if you're brand new, if you're a baby wrestler, and you get in the ring, especially if you get in the ring with somebody that's a seasoned vet, you're there for one reason, and that's to make him look good. And so if you're a baby face, then the heel that's the top guy is going to guzzle you by and large. He might give you, probably give you enough to make him mad and then guzzle you. And that to me, that's to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you take a hardened heel, like, oh gosh, Killer Carl Cox was one of the greatest heels, in my opinion, that ever was, and a great guy beside that. What's funny, most of the guys that you see in the ring that are heels and real assholes
Mm-hmm.
In real life, they're the nicest guys.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the baby faces are prima donnas, and it's kind of like, you talking to me? Huh? Yeah, I'm talking to you.
It's so interesting business, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. The first question we've got this week is from Kim Sherlock, who asks, "What do you think would have happened had you not injured your neck and carried on in the WWF?" So, Ted, you've said before that you wanted to walk away from wrestling by the time you were 40 because of the way that your father passed away. But in a perfect world, if you could have left on your own terms without an injury playing a role in it, what would you have liked to have done for your final match?
Oh gosh, it's hard to say what I would have done for a final match or who I would have chosen to have that final match with. At that time, it would be based on a territory. In a perfect world, I mean, there's two names that come to mind. One of those is um, Jake Roberts,
Mm.
and the other would be Bret Hart.
Boy, those are great.
And again, I'm talking about two guys like myself who grew up in the business. Or, another guy that would be definitely on that list if I could have, would be Ric Flair. Yeah, I mean, Rick was always very flamboyant, but Ric Flair was exceptional in the ring. And you can't take that away from him.
It's interesting as Kim asked this question, and I've heard this question posed a few different ways since you and I've started the podcast. I think a lot of people forget that when you had your match at SummerSlam 1993 against Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, you left the company. In theory, your last match might not have been with the WWF. It might have been overseas in Japan or even in WCW. So it kind of interesting. How did you feel about leaving the WWF with Scott Hall as your final opponent as the $1 Million Man?
Well, hey, I liked Scott. I mean, Scott was, again, he and
Kevin.
Kevin were really, they were more like a team and very good friends as well. And so, having a match with Scott was, I couldn't think of a better way to go out. I mean, at that time it was like, it was, they didn't make nobody knew, it wasn't announced that this was Ted DiBiase's last match.
Right.
I didn't go out like that. I didn't set a date and okay, this was the last time you're ever going to get to see Ted DiBiase in the ring. That never happened.
It's interesting that your final match as the $1 Million Man happened with Razor. And to your point, it's like he was a great guy to go out with because like he was a baby face on the rise at that time, and getting a win over the $1 Million Man probably did a lot for Scott.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. And again, it's like, there are other guys. I mean, there's a few guys that went out that announced it. This is going to be the last time, I get in the ring. This is my last match and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's okay. That didn't suit me. If it's, it was my last wrestling match, but it's not the last time that people were going to see me because I was going to continue on as a manager and a commentator.
Right. And yeah, you would go overseas to Japan, work a couple more matches, suffer your injury, and that was that. But yeah, last time we saw the $1 Million Man, it was with Razor Ramon. So kind of an interesting footnote. Testfay Kabedi, I don't know. They ask, can you ask Ted about being on the Arsenio Hall show in 1989? Ted, it was 35 years ago. You were on Arsenio. Any memories?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we had a good time with him. Man, that's when I was definitely a heel character. But yeah, it was fun, and he was a good guy. He was a good guy.
I saw that not too long ago, and you guys did a great job. It was yourself and Virgil on the show, and you guys did a great job of kind of keeping kayfabe on the show and making sure that everybody knew. Like, you were making all these arrogant comments, and at one point he even asked Ted, "Are you married?" And you said, no, I'm with a lot of women. It was like something to that effect, which is just funny because, of course, you'd been married to Mel since whatever it was,
Oh yeah,
1981.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, well, as I recall, she didn't think that was very funny.
I was thinking about that. I was like, I cannot imagine my wife watching me on TV.
Again, I'm in character. Are you married? You know, I got anybody I want. You know.
See, Ted DiBiase was married. The $1 Million Man was not.
No.
Pat Hawley is up next, and Pat asks, I know you mentored Arn Anderson when he first started in wrestling. Any other names stand out for guys that you helped when they were first breaking in?
Oh gosh, she's talking about from Alabama. His daddy's a wrestler. There's a family of wrestlers
from Alabama. The only wrestlers that are coming to mind are like Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey.
No.
The Armstrong.
Bullet Bob Armstrong.
His son Brad.
Brad was excellent. And you talk about a kid that had it and died way too young.
Yes.
And his other brothers, I think one of his other brothers just refereed.
Yeah, Scott was a ref, and but Scott was a wrestler first, and then Brian, who fans know as the Road Dog.
Yeah. So another wrestling family who I much admired. So.
And you mentored these boys to a degree?
Well, to a degree, because especially Brad, when he first broke in, I had a lot of matches with him.
That was that great rivalry that you had with his father, where you.
Where they gave me credit for I didn't really beat him up in the gym or something, but I think he was working out and a plate fell on his face.
It was something like that, or like the bar came down on his face. But that rumor was still persisting even recently. I wound up asking you about it a number of episodes back because there was a rumor circulating online that you accidentally or on purpose knocked into him when he was lifting and he dropped the plate on his face. So it's just funny that kayfabe was alive and well.
He wasn't even there. But we took the accident and used it to fuel the flame on the fire and just made up a story.
And then you'd end up working with a very young Brad Armstrong, which was, you guys had some great matches.
Yes, sir.
Next up, we've got Ivan Santos, who asks, why were you never booked in Carlos Colon's WCCW in Puerto Rico? I have to imagine this has something to do with Bruiser Brody dying.
Brody was a real good guy. He wasn't easy to get to know, but he was a real good guy. And the fact that happened down there is a crying shame. I don't know that anybody was ever, I can't recall anybody, going to jail for it.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. He got stabbed in the dressing room, and I can't remember who it was, but he was mouthing off real bad. And Brody just said something to him, and then 10 minutes later, the guy comes around the corner and cuts him open with a knife.
And I guess it took forever for him to get to the hospital and all that kind of stuff. Like, what an absolute mess. Poor Tony Atlas was there and trying to help and couldn't do anything. It's like, man, just awful, awful circumstances.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, you talk about an injustice, that was one.
Okay, guys, let's hit the pause button on the show real quick to talk about our fantastic sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the guys that we all know and love. We're talking about BlueChew. Ever since we started talking about BlueChew here on Everybody's Got a Pod, the question keeps coming up from people, does BlueChew work? Well, look, if you're asking that question, we want you to know that BlueChew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month for free.
Guys, BlueChew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. All you've got to do is sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. BlueChew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And if you want to know the best part, here it is. It's all done online. So what that means is you can forget about all the visits to the doctor's office. You can forget about having to have those awkward conversations, or how about the worst part, waiting in line at the pharmacy. Skip all of it with a little help from BlueChew. You can take them anytime, day or night, so that you can plan ahead or be ready when an opportunity arises. And what do you stand to lose? You can try it for free for a month, and we think that you're going to love it and your partner's going to love it. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life without even knowing it, just because you haven't given this a shot. It's a free service. Why not just try it? And if you don't like it, okay, forget it. You don't have to try it ever again. You know, we always say that first impressions are important, but how about lasting impressions? Build up your confidence with BlueChew, and they're giving you confidence where it counts the very most. Guys, BlueChew wants men rock hard. That's what they tell me. That's their mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options right now at BlueChew.com. And guys, we've got a special deal for you, our listeners. Again, you can try BlueChew free. All you've got to do is use our promo code EGAP at checkout, and then just pay $5 shipping. That's it. Just go to BlueChew.com, use our promo code EGAP to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank BlueChew for sponsoring Everybody's Got a Pod.
So Ted, the next question's an interesting one because I recently met a current wrestling star and a guy who has been making a lot of noise in AEW. His name, Ted, is Beef. Have you heard of Beef at all?
Beef?
That's his name, Beef, the wrestler.
No.
Okay, so I met this man.
I've never heard of Beef. The only beef I know is beef I eat.
Well, I'm going to introduce you to the work of Beef, Ted, because this guy, he's really good. He's a phenomenal wrestler, and he's really on the come up right now with AEW.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Beef is going to be in action tonight as folks are listening to this. He'll be on TNT for a match on AEW Rampage. So go out of your way to check this man out because he's always phenomenal. Anyways, Ted, I found out when I was talking to Beef that he's a huge fan of our show and my show with Jake and my show with Hacksaw. And so he actually submitted a question.
Okay. What's Beef want to know?
All right. Straight from Beef to Ted. The question is, who had the best babyface fire that wasn't a mainstream guy?
Who had the best babyface fire that wasn't a mainstream guy?
So somebody who maybe didn't rise to fame quite like yourself or Jake or Hacksaw.
Oh, gosh. One guy that comes to mind is Coco Beware.
Ah, okay.
You know, Coco always had good fire. I mean, you know, and he was always a baby face. I don't know. You know, it's for whatever reason that's the only one that comes to mind.
For my money, the only one I can really think of, he was obviously famous and popular, but never quite rose to the same level as you, is Tommy Rich. A guy like Tommy Rich had great baby face.
Oh my gosh. You know, but okay. Yeah, Tommy. Yeah. And but I always felt like, you know, that Tommy did get there, but he didn't get there in the WWE. He didn't go. You know, I don't know if they ever wanted him or not, but when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, Tommy Rich and I, you know, I mean, and actually, it was more like Tommy's fame and everything helped elevate me. Because, you know, when I first got there, Tommy wasn't there. And then he came back and they teamed us up and it kind of took off. But man. Yeah, Wildfire Tommy Rich. That's a good one. That's a very good one.
And but
The guy who, he had it all. He had the charisma, and that's the one thing I tell everybody. I tell these wrestlers, guys that want to be wrestlers. I said, you can't teach charisma. You either have it or you don't. And if you don't have it, then you can have the greatest match in the world, and everybody's going to go.
mm-hmm.
If you can't get them out of their seat and get them all riled up, and again, that just rolls over. I mean, the same true in motion pictures. It's charisma. It's your ability to engage an audience in a very believable way. So,
Tommy certainly had that, and
he did. Wildfire. He had it.
Before anybody sends me their hate in the comments or on social media for saying that he never quite made it to the same level of fame as you, just to be clear, I mean, because he didn't get the WWF exposure, like they're still making Ted DiBiase figures, and Ted was on magazines and he was everywhere. A guy like Tommy Rich, great, and he was over huge in Georgia. But you ask a casual wrestling fan who the $1 Million Man is, they know. You ask a casual wrestling fan who Tommy Rich was, unfortunately, a lot of them don't know. So that's the differentiator.
Yeah.
SUMC is up next, and they ask, when you wrestled someone with an altered voice like Warrior or Macho Man or Nikita Koloff, did they use their altered voice or normal voice to communicate in the ring? Who did you have the most trouble hearing or understanding in the ring?
Oh gosh, I don't think anybody really altered their voice. That's.
I'm just picturing Savage calling a spot, like shooting you out to the ropes, like, got the clothesline, brother.
Yeah. You don't know, but I mean, that really was his voice.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if it was all for Savage.
Oh, yeah. To a Slim Jim.
It is interesting being in wrestling now, because sometimes you'll be in the ring with somebody and they will go to shoot you off, or they'll have you in a chin lock or something and be calling spots. And I don't know about you, Ted, but very often I find myself not standing up or not letting them shoot me off and saying, what'd you just say? Like, it seems like it happens a lot.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you didn't get it all, then don't go. Don't get the ropes. Don't go. Wait till you got it and got it right.
Next up, we've got Gert de Krom, who is apparently from the Netherlands, and they ask, when Howard Finkel announced you was making your winter residence in the Netherlands, I would like to know, have you ever actually been to the Netherlands?
Nope.
Never.
Yeah, the Netherlands Antilles. I think I've flown over it.
Yeah, that's close enough, pal.
Yeah,
you were there.
I've heard it's a beautiful place, though.
I've heard that too. I'd love to get to the Netherlands. This guy's name is Your Homie Brian, and Your Homie Brian asks, what is your favorite baseball team?
My favorite baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been like a enormous baseball fan. I mean, but I would have to say the New York Yankees.
All right. Well, they're going to the World Series, pal.
And they have probably been the most consistent, in terms of a team that's, I mean, I can't remember when they were never, have they ever been out of the top 10?
No, even if they aren't, they're still like one of the most popular teams on the face of the planet.
Yeah. Babe Ruth, baby.
Oh man, I'm a big Babe Ruth fan. You go back and watch his life story and see that, like, you take a look at Babe Ruth and it's like, this guy looks like a plumber, and he's out there just cranking home runs every time he steps up to the plate.
Yeah. So I was a big Yankee fan.
Did you ever meet Mickey Mantle?
I did. As a matter of fact, I don't have it in my office right now, but we did I was like one of the celebrity athletes that had a lot of like a celebrity golf tournament, right? And they would do a lot of celebrity golf tournaments to raise money for special causes. And this is what that was. And the headlining, athlete was Mickey Mantle. And I remember walking up to him, and I tossed him a baseball, and I said, "Mick, would you sign this for me?" And so I do have an autographed baseball signed by Mickey Mantle.
Any chance Mickey knew who you were?
Well, he didn't then, but he does. He did now. After we had, I don't know how big. I don't know what kind of a wrestling fan he would have been, and I don't know that it would have interested him. I don't know.
Pretty cool that you got to meet such a legendary figure, though, and a guy who is so many people's childhood hero from your generation. Next up, we've got Darren Meeser, and Darren asks, what match type did you never have but would have loved to have tried? So like a gimmick match, any that you never got to do that you would have wanted to?
Oh, gosh. I think all the ones that I would like to do, I think I did. I mean, coal miner's glove on top of a 12-foot pole.
Mm-hmm.
First guy to get gets to load the glove and use it. I've been in several cage matches. I've been in several, one of those deals where if you get thrown out of the ring, a lumberjack match, the wrestlers are around the ring and they throw you back in,
Mm-hmm.
But one I probably would not care to do is one where they got two ladders.
Yeah.
That ladder thing.
No, because if you've got a ladder in the ring, that means you probably need to climb the ladder at some point. So falling off a ladder seems like it could be a bummer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Especially if it's in a ring.
Yeah. Well, especially Vince's ring back in the day. That thing was stiff as shit, apparently.
Yeah.
We've got a related question. Nathan Meyer asks, would Ted ever take a bump on thumbtacks when he was still wrestling? Ted, any payoff enough for you to take a bump on some thumbtacks?
No.
So,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I probably would have, because when you look at that, when they get slammed on that stuff, you're talking about thumbtacks. Okay. Their thumbtacks are not incredibly, they're not like razor sharp. So you could get slammed on thumbtacks and basically, almost wipe them off your back with a broom.
Mm-hmm.
And would you get a few punctures? Probably, but not. I mean, I've seen guys had those matches, and it didn't tear up their backs horribly. It just sounds, I don't know, and I don't know why, but it didn't.
Seems like it would hurt, but yeah, no.
It's going to hurt a little bit. But you got to understand that, you get 10 to 15 minutes into a match, and you get slammed, you're going to feel it, but you're not going to feel it like if it was the first minute of the match.
Yeah.
Your heart's pumping, you're sweating, you got it going on. And yeah, it's like, I can remember doing blade jobs and never even feeling it.
Then the next morning, your head's a little tender.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Once anybody who's played sports will know, like once you get your heart pumping pretty good, it's like you're almost in like feel no pain type mode. And then when you get home and maybe climb out of the car once you get home, something like that, you're like, ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we got to take a quick time out to talk about True Classic. I love this product. I just had a bunch of it arrive at my house, and ever since, I've been strutting around here feeling like $1,000,000 wearing True Classic clothing because it fits so perfectly. I know that a lot of you probably remember those days of being in puberty, right? And you're trying to pick out like a t-shirt or some pants and feel like nothing quite fits right. Nothing can quite conform to your body the way that you want it to. You feel awkward. Maybe the sleeves are too big or too tight, or the trunk is too tight, and everything was always uncomfortable. Well, I'm coming to find that the older I get, the more things feel like that again for whatever reason. And it's hard to find clothing that's versatile enough to go with any occasion. Whether I'm going to daycare to pick up my kids, or if I'm saying, hey, I'm going to go out with some friends and have a couple drinks, it's really hard to find the right way to go at this age. You know, usually if you want to get clothing that you know is going to fit you the right way, you've got to get it tailored and you've got to spend all this money. Well, not anymore. I'm going out hitting the town in true classic, and let me say, all my buddies are asking me about these shirts. It's a couple of them have actually come up and touched some material like it's an episode of Seinfeld, asked me about it because it is high quality, great feeling material, and it fits me like it was tailor-made for me. We're talking about premium products at an affordable price. Come on, guys, you know that you've got to at least try this one out. They've got best-selling t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, and more in 3, 6, and 9 packs. And these shirts are designed to enhance your best features, so snug in the arms to make your arms look bigger. Same thing with the chest, it's going to make your chest look nice, and then just the right amount of room around your midsection, so if you're rocking the dad bod, they've got you covered. I'm going to stand up right now so I can show you guys this shirt. I mean, look at how great this shirt fits me. It looks like it's tailor-made for my body. You know, it enhances my arms, which of course I'm trying to make look as good as I can because I'm stepping into the wrestling ring. But then look, I've got all this space around my midsection, so maybe if I've had a couple extra cookies, it doesn't have to show. It's not just t-shirts either. They've got you covered on jeans. How about some fall must-haves like long sleeve Henleys, waffle hoodies, button-ups, joggers, and more. Or hey, if you're active, they've got moisture wicking, quick dry, and odor control clothing. I got some of those shirts in the mail, and let me tell you, I'm going to be wearing them around in the wrestling ring because they're absolutely perfect for making sure that I'm not all covered in sticky sweat and I'm not smelling the place up either. The best thing is variety, man. You can mix and match clothing to work with your lifestyle. And if you happen to get something that you don't like, which I truly doubt, it's 100% perfect fit guarantee and easy returns. They've got over 200,000 reviews and they're trusted by over 4 million customers. You can be one of those. I know that you're going to like this product as much as I do if you just give it a shot. And by the way, there's never been a better time to give it a shot. I've got you covered. You can unlock big savings when you bundle packs. Just go to my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/EGAP and you're going to save. That's trueclassic.com/EGAP. Shop right now, elevate your wardrobe, and become the you that you want to be this fall with True Classic.
Kevin Hoke is up next, and he asks, what did you think about Erik Watts becoming a wrestler?
I didn't think anything of it. I mean, he wanted to give it a try. And I didn't really, I never said anything to Erik, but I just didn't, I don't think he had it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't know. And obviously he didn't because, it never really worked out for him.
Right. If you had to kind of put your finger on it, would you say it was just the lack of charisma or what was holding Erik back?
Well, that's what I would say is the lack of charisma. You can't generate that into anybody. You can't make them have it. Mm-hmm. They either have it or they don't have it. Junkyard Dog was not a great wrestler, but what Junkyard Dog had of overwhelmingly coming out of him is charisma. He hit that whole, he'd march down in the ring and he'd shake his legs a little bit and throw that head back and give it the old, oh.
Gotta love JYD, man.
Oh, I did too. He was a great guy.
It makes me wonder, thinking about Erik Watts, because like you take a look at Erik Watts and he's got great size. He's got like a wrestling background. So really it's like maybe the only thing on paper he might have been missing is charisma. Do you think that a strong gimmick can make up for lack of charisma? I'm thinking about a guy like if you were to put him in like a cane.
Yeah, I don't care what gimmick you give anybody. It's you either have it or you don't. I'm sorry. You either have it or you don't. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, just you look at all the wrestlers that I knew, they had that spark, I mean, whether they were a heel or a baby face, it's like, it's kind of like there's a lot of guys that were good wrestlers, and what made them good was not so much, it's kind of like I was kind of like one of those guys, like holes in the holes, out of holes, like I was like a ring technician. But then there were other guys, that were like, I don't know, Coke, not Coke, yeah, go beware. He had his little thing, and I don't know. It was or the gimmick, but charisma is just something it's hard to even explain what it is. It's just it's a gift, it's like Wildfire Tommy Rich. Man, you get to put that microphone in his hand and he could go, buddy. So anyway.
No, I see your point, and I know what you mean. It's like it's hard to kind of describe. You can kind of take a look at somebody and see how they behave and listen to their promo and say, like, boy, that guy's really got it. Or hear him and say, like, boy, that guy, he might be good in the ring, but not a ton of personality. And personality is really kind of what gets people over in wrestling.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is a lot of times, and again, most I don't know if it is. I don't watch enough anymore to know, but what used to happen is you get a guy who's really good in the ring, really good, in the ring, but you give him the microphone and he's not that good. Those guys would get managers,
mm-hmm.
and the managers would do all the talking. It's like, his real name was Jim Weba. His ring name was Skandar Akbar. He was, and again, he was really good on the microphone. He could cut an interview, man. He could. He was just great.
A guy who could really help elevate talents.
Yeah.
All right, Ted, we'll do one more and then wrap it up for this week. We've got Jay with a topical question. He says, with it being the Halloween season, Ted, do you like scary movies?
Oh yeah, I do. I like scary movies. It's funny. I like the old ones. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I liked to watch those movies, but my parents quit letting me watch them because I'd go, then when I would go to bed at night, I had like a night light. For example, anytime you watch a movie and it's got a werewolf in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way that the hair on the werewolf's head goes, it's kind of like, like a half moon on top of his head, right?
Yeah, like a big mound.
Okay, well, I go to bed, and there's a chair. Now I've got a night light on, but there's a chair in my room, and the reflection of that light off that chair put the shadow on the wall that looked just like the werewolf's head. I started screaming. My mom came in there and she goes, "That's it. We're not letting you watch those movies anymore."
Ah, man.
Yeah.
So were you watching the old Wolfman with like Lon Jr.?
Oh yeah, the Wolfman who turned into the Wolfman, and Frankenstein. The oldies but goodies. But I still like scary movies.
I just went back and watched that one with Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman. I like it. A lot of everybody nowadays is like, well, it's not scary. It's like, yeah, but think about the time. Nobody was seeing shit like this. It was probably terrifying at the time. Yeah. It's good. What about modern day movies, Ted? Like, did you ever? Well, closer to modern days. Did you go see The Exorcist?
I saw The Exorcist, and I thought it was good. Modern movies, not so much that like horror movies, but oh my gosh, I'm a movie buff, and then you ask me to name one, I can't think of one. Okay, I mean, historically, I liked the movie Titanic.
Oh yeah.
About that whole that was a sad story, but they made a great movie out of it. you know, and I think they did a good job of showing how the people were having such a good time and got so totally caught off guard. I mean, it's you know, terrifying in that way. What else? I like war movies, you know. What was it? There's one movie called Flags of Our Fathers.
Ah, yes.
You know, and it shows the guys who planted the American flag on Iwo Jima. You know, and there's there's a statue of that. You know, that's been made famous, and you know, so I liked war movies. I like the history and all that stuff. And I like a good, you know, like good old westerns too, man. And I just watched Kevin Costner did a movie, and then there was a movie called Tombstone.
Yeah.
And you know that incorporated a lot of people, but Kevin Costner's movie was just Wyatt Earp, and it tells the whole life of Wyatt Earp. I mean, you know how he grew up in the East, and he went to school, and you know, and he was in love with this girl, and they got married, and she died of whatever that fever was. You know, that just sent him over the edge, and his dad came and got on his butt and said, you know, do something with yourself or whatever, however he did it. But anyway, so then he ends up going out to Tombstone and becomes famous.
I love a good cowboy movie. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with Paul Newman, another great one. Pretty much anything that Clint Eastwood would do. But yeah, man.
Oh my gosh, Clint Eastwood. You know, what was the one? Oh man.
It's like the Man with No Name series, Fistful of Dollars, and
Fistful of Dollars. You know, and for a few dollars more.
And Good, Bad, and the Ugly, which was
Good,
the first
Bad,
one.
and the Ugly,
Yeah.
No, yeah. Those were those. I mean, he's good. He's a good actor, no matter what he's playing. He's great.
Rio Bravo, John Wayne, and Dean Martin. Gosh, I love those old westerns.
Yeah. And you know, like some of these. I've just been watching some of the old World War II movies where they're, you know, they got the one it's about an aircraft carrier and a guy whose son is one of the pilots, and I can't remember it now. Anyway, I like all that kind of stuff.
I'm glad to hear that you're a movie buff like I am, Ted. We'll have to talk about it more, and we'll have to have more questions on the next time we do an Ask Ted Anything. There's plenty more here on the list, so we'll definitely we'll get through them. We'll get to the ones that we missed next time. But yeah, that's gonna wrap us up.
Regardless of what you may want to ask me, always remember this: everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Guys, we'll see you next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.
$1 Million dreams.